And I want to welcome everyone on behalf of the Delaware Judiciary to this ceremony to rename the Newcastle County Courthouse, or as it will be known from this day forward, the Leonard L. Williams Justice Center. I want to welcome all the judges who are here, the elected officials, of which we have many, which I won't go through the roster in the interest of time. There are going to be several speakers today to mark the occasion, including a representative of the Williams family and several people who knew Judge Williams and were influenced by his life and his achievements. On a personal note, years ago, Judge Williams publicly described my father, Chancellor Collins Seitz Sr., as a hero for his rulings on the two cases that would later become part of the landmark decisions in Brown versus Board of Education. I also had the privilege to work with Judge Williams on the project to restore the Hockessin Colored School number 107 in Hockessin, and was pleased with his leadership with that project. It's fitting for me to return the favor to Judge Williams today in some small way by being part of the ceremony here today. And now to get things underway, I'm going to turn the podium over to our Governor, Jack Barkell.
Well, thank you, Justice Seitz. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. And if the governor's dispensation makes any difference, you can feel free to take off your suit coat and other things. It's good to be with Judge Tolliver, with the mayor, with Councilman Street, all of whom will be speaking, along with Representative Potter. There are so many elected officials and judges here. I don't know that I can introduce all of them, but we certainly appreciate everybody being here, and particularly to the Williams family. It's great to be with you. And I am very pleased to have this opportunity for the state to fulfill our commitment related to this courthouse, and to fulfill the committed effort of so many of Delaware's present-day civil rights leaders who have worked passionately to honor Judge Williams. We all know about the state's uneven history with the civil rights movement, and I'm proud of the recent efforts by my administration and the General Assembly and others to tackle head-on the inequities in our state. Clearly, there is significantly more to do, and I know that we all look forward to the day when all Delawareans will have the opportunities they deserve to realize their potential. And while we have a responsibility to speak out about solutions to past injustices, it's also important that we take the time to acknowledge and to pay homage to the contributions by Delawareans who have worked to make our state more equitable for all people. And today's dedication gives us another chance to revisit some of our proudest moments when Delawareans have successfully fought for historic changes to right historic wrongs. And from early in his career, Judge Williams played a significant role in Delaware's civil rights movement. From excelling as one of the first black students at the University of Delaware, to fighting for justice in our education system through his partnership with Lewis Redding, who, along as we heard a minute ago from Justice Seitz, worked with Justice Seitz's father and contributed to one of the most important legal actions in our nation's history. Judge Williams also helped to pave the way for the success of future African-American attorneys and judges, including in some of our state's most prominent positions, when he rose from Assistant City Solicitor in Wilmington to Chief Prosecuting Attorney for a municipal court to presiding on the bench in front of which he had argued for many years. His contributions continued as a supporter of nonprofit organizations, and he continued to create more opportunities for another generation of African Americans to be part of our legal system as the mentor-in-chief at his former school, Howard. So to Judge Williams' family and friends and all those who have made him and his work an inspiration for improving our state, I thank you, and I do hope we'll have more opportunities to recognize our state's progress together. And with that, thank you. Okay, and with that, I call on Representative Charles Potter to present a proclamation.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. And I'd like for Representative Bolden and Senate Bethany Hall Long to come forward, please, and we're going to keep things moving. And Dina, will you come up? Could you hold that one? We want to present this tribute in honor of your father, Judge Leonard R. Williams, and we're just so happy and pleased that we now have the Leonard R. Williams Justice Center, and it's been a long time coming. And we want to thank Governor Jack Markell, because there have been many governors who could have done this but didn't, so we need to give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And another one. Thank you.
And we have one more here, and this, would Samuel Guy come forward, please? And on behalf of the House of Representatives and the Senate, we'd like to present this tribute to Samuel Guy for his outstanding efforts naming the Leonard R. Williams Justice Center. We thank Mr. Guy for his role. You know, back in 1997, Samuel Guy had the vision to make sure he deed restricted this land, that this would be the Judge Leonard Williams Justice Center. So congratulations to Sam Guy. He's one of the hardest workers out here, and we love him. I'm not going to kiss you, but. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Congratulations.
Oh, I'm up. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here on this hot day, and I won't be long either. And to the family, this has been a long time coming. I want to say, if it wasn't for Samuel Guy, this would have never happened. He had the guts and the fortitude to put this legislation forward when a lot of people told him it couldn't get done. Let's give Mr. Guy a round of applause. I want to thank J Street, Richard Smith, and Sam again when we went there and sat down with the governor to work this out so we can get this done. Sam was very vocal in the meeting. You know how Sam can get. Sam jumped up a few times. I said, now, Sam, we're going to work this thing out. It's going to be all right. I said, give us a little bit of time. The governor made a commitment. He kept his commitment. Sam put pressure on the governor, and here we are today. But I do want to say that Leonard Williams was a man of righteousness, was a man who stood for the people. I had a case in court when I was a young rookie, and I chased a guy, had a plaid shirt on, and the judge says to me, Judge Williams says, how do you know it was the guy? It was 5 people over there with plaid shirts on. I said, I know it was the guy because I was right behind him, and I grabbed him. He said, but there was 4 other people around him. He said, case dismissed. Made me a better police officer. Really did. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Charles Tolliver. I was formerly a judge of the Superior Court of the State of Delaware, and I had the privilege of knowing Judge Williams all of my life. He represented my parents, and he hired me, and he taught me a hell of a lot about life. I will promise you this, my remarks will be shorter than I am tall. This is very appropriate for all the reasons previously stated, but because of Judge Williams' accomplishments as a student athlete. He was very smart. He worked hard. He got through Howard High, University of Delaware, and Georgetown Law Center, graduating in 1959, which was no easy feat. As a lawyer, he assisted Mr. Redding in a number of civil rights cases, but most importantly for me and some of my contemporaries was his focus on the practice of civil law, which was not necessarily known for African American lawyers in this state at that time. But most significantly was his impact as a jurist. Well, there I go. But fortunately, I know what I'm going to say. Judge Williams was eminently fair and compassionate. He was a jurist who used a combination of intellect, common sense, and knowledge of the community to achieve just results. He was known as the Chancellor of Municipal Court because while I'm not so sure as to his strict adherence to all the principles of law, He certainly did what was right and what was fair, and he tried to do exactly what he thought needed to be done. He also knew everybody came into court. He either represented your mother, your father, your family. I mean, he knew everybody, and that helped. If he were here today, he would have been flattered, but it's an honor that he would not have sought. Not that Judge Williams didn't love himself, because he surely did. He did not lack a love of self, but he loved his community and those who served it more. He would have wanted it to go to someone who taught, or someone, an elected official who pursued the results or fairness for everybody. He would hope that this building, actually with his name upon it, would stand as a statement, a monument against violence and a monument in favor of fairness and equity for all. He would want it to be a true center of justice for all, no matter what your color, gender, or orientation might be. He would accept the honor only if by doing so we would pay tribute to those who had struggled in the past for justice and fairness, and recognize the potential of this state and its elected officials to do more in the future. I hope, and I should say we hope, that this monument to Leonard L. Williams will serve as an inspiration to others to continue to make the dream available to all. I thank you for being here, but I've been given a limited amount of time by Garrett Williams, or else he said he'd make me shorter than I already am. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Greetings to Andrea Holmes Williams and Judge Williams' son and daughter, Garrett and Dina, who are here today. His third son passed away a few years ago, so he's unable to be with us today, but I'm sure he's looking down. I want to thank the entire Williams family for inviting me to speak on this joyous occasion. We are here in Wilmington, Newcastle County, Delaware, in the United States of America, to honor the life and legacy of Leonard L. Williams, the quintessential Wilmingtonian. He is the personification of the pure and essential essence of our dear city's slogan, a place to be somebody. I welcome you to the party that I planned in 1997 as an at-large member of the Wilmington City Council. At that time, I developed an idea that was implemented through the introduction of Substitute Number 1 to Ordinance 97-097, titled, "An Ordinance to Require the Naming of Any Courthouse to be Located at 4th and Walnut Streets as the Leonard L. Williams Justice Center." A deed restriction was the mechanism used to prevent any loopholes. At this time, I want to publicly acknowledge and express my appreciation to my 1997 City of Wilmington legislative and executive branch colleagues who recognized the significance of the contributions of Leonard L. Williams. As the historical records reflect, they acted accordingly. Councilman Norman Oliver, 4th District, who joined me as a co-sponsor. If he's here, raise your hand, Norman. Councilwoman Stephanie T. Bolden, 3rd District. Councilman Dimitri Ortega, 5th District. Councilman Gerald Brady, 8th District. Councilman Theophilus K. Gregory Esquire, at large. President James M. Baker, Mayor James H. Sills, and my buddy, City Solicitor John Sheridan. I thank each and every one of my City of Wilmington colleagues for showing the Honorable Leonard L. Williams much-deserved love for his performance and his heart. Without your cooperation in 1997 and 1998, this naming ceremony would not be possible. I also extend appreciation to Governor Jack Markell for coming to the realization in 2015 on behalf of the state of Delaware that, quote, the state must honor the deed restrictions that existed when the state purchased the property, end of quote. I thank Reverend Aaron Moore and State Representative Charles Potter Jr., who consistently provided me with unwavering personal support from the beginning to the end. More recently, State Representative Potter, State Representative Bolden, County Executive Tom Gordon, County Councilman Jay Street, Mayor Dennis Williams, the entire Wilmington City Council, and City Solicitor Mike Migliori, and Reverend Aaron Moore, and countless others stood tall in support of continued compliance with the deed restriction. From 2002, when this building originally opened, through to 2013, when Judge Williams passed away, I regularly assured Judge Williams and his family that I would never stop fighting to get the state of Delaware to comply with the deed restriction and contractual agreement reached with the city of Wilmington. One thing that truly bothers me is that the Honorable Judge Leonard L. Williams should have had the opportunity to see his name on this building. The naming episode of God's plan is now complete. And I thank God for blessing us by lending the Honorable Leonard L. Williams to us. My life and all of our lives are better because of his contributions. As my pastor, Reverend Christopher Curry, teaches, sometimes God will give it, but not when we ask for it. Sometimes he will hold it back. We must always believe. I chose to have faith. I've always seen victory coming. As I close, I feel a need to convey to you that in 1997, when I carefully selected the term Justice Center, because it was aspirational and aligned with Judge Williams and his life lived in pursuit of justice. The Justice Center component associated with the naming of this location reflects having a site relating to or characterized by aspiration or a strong desire for justice on the part of all who enter the building. A judicial branch building should clearly be a symbol of justice. The building's name and signage creates expectations and guides behavior. It is important for all who enter to understand that they are expected to have justice on their mind, and be committed to justice as they enter the Leonard L. Williams Justice Center. God bless my friend, the Honorable Judge Leonard L. Williams, Esquire.
All those are hard acts to follow. And everything I had written, I left in the car intentionally because I have to do this from my heart. And Judge Williams has been an influence in my life ever since I was a teenager. And that's because, unfortunately, I was not a model child. And what a lot of people didn't know was Judge Williams could represent, even though he was a sitting jurist, he represented in family court. So once upon a time when I decided I was going to run, when the police said stop and got caught, I got charged with disorderly conduct anyway. Judge Williams represented us. I'm telling this story for a reason. Walked in and he said to the judge, according to city ordinance number, running's not a crime. The judge looked at him and said, but Judge Williams, the ordinance also says, he said, lady, don't tell me what the ordinance states because I wrote it when I was city solicitor. Now I'm in awe at this black man pushing his way around the courthouse. So now I really want to see what's going on. I'm inquisitive. Get up in, took off school sometimes just to go see him in action in court. And for the jurors who are here, while they all are talking about creative sentencing and all that, Lenny was doing that from the door. I'm sitting in court one day, young man, there had been a melee up at 13th and Clayton. They charged a man with disorderly conduct and other things, young man. He was found guilty. Lenny says, guilty, 90 days, suspended for probation. And the probation is, you see to it that nothing else happens at 13th and Clayton. The young man looked at him and said, he said, you either can see to it nothing else happens at 13th and Clayton, you go to jail, which is it? The young man turned back to somebody and said, can he do that? This person said, he just did. I'll try, Your Honor, I'll try. To my knowledge, nothing else happened at 13th and Clayton. But see, Judge Williams was among the first in the matter of Parker versus the University of Delaware, among the first African Americans to go to the University of Delaware. In that regard, he was a victim of discrimination, but he was also one of the people, a recipient of the justice that began. He finished Georgetown Law School, and folks need to understand this very clearly. He finished Georgetown Law School in 1959, 1961. He's at counsel table in the United States Supreme Court with Lewis L. Redden in the matter of Burton versus the Wilmington Parking Authority. They made new law. They extended the Equal Protection Clause. And see, when you're the beneficiary and you're the litigator, you become thoroughly immersed in the civil rights struggle. And that's what he was. He lived his life. He bounds his career around the civil rights struggle and justice. And folks give me accolades all the time. What you've done, what you've done. But see, I'm gonna tell you the real story. We started the Coalition to Save Our Children on the eve of the 4th District plan. We're going to trial. I walk into the coalition meeting, it was crystal clear that Lenny, Hicks, and the lawyers had a meeting before the meeting started. So I walked in and the judge said, sit down, son. He said, we have decided that you're going to be the liaison between the coalition and the lawyers. You're going to work directly with the lawyers. You're going to be at counsel table. I said, but Judge, why do I have to do that? I'm not a lawyer. He said, we're planning for the future, and we think you have to be a part of that future. Then Hicks jumped up, stood over top of me, started saying that Hicks things that only Hicks could say, I can't repeat here. It was compelled on me. I didn't have a choice. But see, they knew something then that I didn't know then, but I know clearly now, having spent 42 years in the arena. I'm never going to live to see justice and fairness in this school system. But there is a possibility of making some substantive change, and I want to be a part of that in their memory. And I think I'd be remiss, I'm changing everything because somebody was wise enough to bring children here today. And children, this courthouse being named after this black man, and another black man who the city building is named after. They spent their lives, they spent their public careers for justice. They wanted to make sure that you could go to school with anybody, anywhere, and that you could be anything you wanted to be and have anything you wanted to have. Education was the key. And they believed in you. You've got to believe in yourselves as much as they did. And if anybody tells you you can't do those things, as long as I'm living, you tell them Councilman Street told you different, and we'll get it on. I'm gonna close with this. Two things. One, I'll never forget him repeatedly telling the story. He's a judge, he's a college graduate, he's a sitting judge, but he had to get a white man to go look at the house that he ended up living in because there was a possibility a black man would not be able to buy that house. That was a sad story. The happy story was, everybody remembers Jesse crying after the president got elected. I remember talking to Judge Williams on the phone when it was crystal clear that Barack Obama was going to be president. And I could hear him holding back tears, and he said, son, this is what it was all about. The desegregation orders all across the country, it was our hope that as young America grew up together, that the hatred and the bigotry would go away, and one day we'd have a black president. He said, I never thought I'd live to see it, but I have. That's the great part. But in recognition of this name today, those of us who have benefited from the struggle immensely, and because of our future here and our children, we have to do everything we can as a people to do all we can to see to it that this Justice Center doesn't continue to represent and deal with justice in the form of primarily just us.
Good afternoon. My name is Dina Williams, and I'm the only daughter of Leonard L. Williams, and I am here representing our family. You may know many of us, and I by extension would include sort of everybody in the audience as a part of the Williams clan, but his wife is here, Andrea Williams, his brothers and sisters who are all standing here, and nieces and nephews, and it's almost overwhelming to look out and see this much family and this many people here in support and in honor of my father. I want to thank everyone in terms of the state and the city, everyone who's been here today and who's spoken about my father. We asked a couple of individuals like Mr. Guy and like Mr. Street to speak because really this opportunity would not have happened if it had not been for people in the community championing this great opportunity. So I want to thank them in particular for being here and for really being steadfast about their commitment. There are a number of things that my father believed in, and I'm going to give you a little bit of perspective about him as the man, as the father, not so much as the jurist or as a public figure. But there was a quote that I recently read from the great Muhammad Ali. And I'm just going to read it because it says a lot about sort of how my father believed in things. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. My father considered himself a simple man from the country, shaped by the idea that achievement is a state of mind, that we are capable of accomplishing anything with hard work and commitment. We shared our father with many, many people with the community, and so we didn't always have the amount of time that we may have liked as children to spend with him. But he made it a priority to spend every morning with us, our entire lives. He cooked our breakfast and made our lunches and sent us off to school. And I don't know how many people know that, but that was every morning without fail. By doing so, he was also able to impart his many wisdoms. And if anybody here knows my father, and knew my father, and I know many of you did, he had a lot of wisdom and a lot to talk about. But his daily sermon typically consisted of things like, we are all the same. Don't ever think anybody is better than you. Take care of your neighbor. They are you and you are them. We learn something from every person we interact with. No one is insignificant. And then his last words to me, and again, I'm the only daughter, but his last words to me every morning as he would drop me off at school, and my nickname was Missy, was, Missy, don't take any wooden nickels. And I hear my folks back here, because they know it oh too well. As a little girl, I saw my father as bigger than life, as most little girls do. I saw him as the epitome of strength and courage. But as women, as a maturing woman, I began to see my father as a man and as a friend. And that's a very different perspective that we grow into as adults. And as a man, I began to understand that he valued being loved and respected as a father more than any of his other accomplishments. And I will tell you that he more than achieved that. I would be remiss not to acknowledge my mother and her support and commitment to my father's vision. They were quite a team during their time together. And I have to say, as I look at the state of the world today, it is painful and heartbreaking to see the lack of humanity expressed in our daily lives. It is a world that my father would have wanted to continue to change, one that requires active participation from us all, one that requires that we look up from our phones and look into the eyes and the hearts of our fellow man and be accountable to one another, one that reminds us that God made us all perfect, not a select few. It doesn't work that way. My father was not motivated by glory or recognition, so this public dedication in honor of his life's work would have astonished him, and he would have been brought to tears, literally. Today I stand before you representing my father and my family, and we are so deeply humbled and honored. We owe a great debt of thanks to the individuals that I mentioned before, but especially to Sam Guy, who sponsored this ordinance 18 years ago. And I know he also mentioned Norm Oliver and the host of other individuals who have been steadily in the background pushing for this opportunity to really happen. Some are here today and others are standing quietly in the background. And this is a collective achievement, I want to say that, because no one gets to any place in life without many people supporting them and championing their efforts. So I want to say thank you to all who are here today and those that are not. And I am perspiring in places that I only typically perspire at the gym. So I'm going to really close off here. So we celebrate today, and as one unified body, we pay homage to this incredible man who I was blessed to have as my father. So again, thank you very, very much, and we appreciate the honor. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean. That was beautiful, and we are so grateful that all of you have come out today. It's now time to unveil the sign, and I would ask the family to join Dina right over there, and I would invite the young people that Councilman Street referenced earlier. If you all would come up and join the family.